Good evening, everyone. What follows is going to be the beginning episode of our campaign of Star Trek Adventures. We got four main characters that are going to grace this episode. Captain Mark Santos, played by Eloy Tukjach, a Tellarite Chief Medical Officer, who is played by Jason of Dark Age Roleplay Game. There's Sakel, the Operations Officer, played by Jim Cushman, and there is Asimov, or Kaitek Asimov, played by Ivan Mike of Ivan Mike 1968. And these four characters are going to get into some hot water on the Cardassian border. The year is around 2355, and the Federation-Cardassian War is winding down. Allegedly, armistice negotiations are underway. The Alexandria is a New Orleans-class starship, and she's been tasked on a special mission to kind of take care of something which is a little bit delicate, involving some spies. I'm going to let Eloy take it away with the captain's log. Now, the first half of this session, I did not manage to capture my mic, the GM mic. So there's going to be a few interruptions within the recording of the session where I provide a little bit of clarity and possibly just chime in with what was going on with my description. So I hope that this is enjoyable to you. I hope it gives you a little bit of a window onto how we play. As a disclaimer, of course, Star Trek is Paramount CBS's property, and it's licensed by Modiphius, who makes a great role-playing game for it. And there's a lot of different Trek artists that I use in my Roll20 stuff, their work, and too many to attribute individually. Of course, Babia, whose work has appeared in the technical manuals and the encyclopedias, and is really amazing. His work on DeviantArt has been sort of worked into this, and I want to give special acknowledgement to his work here. I'm featuring the stuff that's in the session for educational purposes for those of you who are interested in learning to play Star Trek Adventures and who are interested in kind of seeing how to use Roll20 tools for your own personal use, as what's used here is just for our personal use, to kind of create a more lively session and to show instead of tell, and save a lot of time and create a lively sensation of play. I'm going to let the characters and the players speak for themselves as the episode begins. So without further ado, this is Episode 1, Act 1 of our Star Trek Adventures campaign.
Captain Slog, USS Alexandria, supplemental. We are on approach to the rendezvous point at Neptune in order to conduct an exchange. We've had a Cardassian prisoner, and our orders are to exchange this for a Federation asset codenamed Rosebud. The nature of this mission is highly secretive, for which the Alexandria has been stationed in orbit at the far edges of the system, and we have taken a civilian shuttle in personnel in plain clothes in order to perform the exchange. Given the high secrecy of this mission, I have left the executive officer in charge of the Alexandria, and personally taking charge of this mission. With me, our chief medical officer, Tuk, to oversee the health of our Rosebud asset, as we have some intel that indicates that our asset may be in need of immediate medical attention. We have brought security personnel aboard, and I am availing myself of the services of Ops Chief Officer Sakel in this mission as well.
At this point, I asked Captain Santos to make a difficulty 0 insight plus command check to reflect his planning and his forethought, and to get some momentum in the pool going into the beginning of this scene.
Plus command. And what is is there any applicable focus here? Oh, excellent. Mm-hmm. Call it yes. And we got 2 successes. So our momentum is 2, right? It's difficulty 0.
The next task was landing the shuttlecraft. which CMO Tukjak took over since he was at the helm of the shuttlecraft. Let's see how it went.
I have actual focus in small craft,
Excellent.
but
Excellent.
ops, I would think maybe ops, but I don't know. But I do have a small craft.
How good is Sakel at piloting? Because if nobody else,
my
Captain can do it himself.
con's only at 2,
Oh, okay.
so not the best.
Yeah, mine as well, just a 2.
I do have a con at 3. You know, if is it Tuck or Took?
I don't. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't make any difference. Tuck, Took, whatever rings true for you, Captain.
Sure thing. So
Nobody
Took,
tells.
yeah, you might as well fly it in if we need to make a quick exit, and if Rosebud is injured, I'll take over flight ops. But for now, it's fine.
Everybody, everybody, hold on. I'm gonna have to make a quick landing, and it might be a bit rough. So we're looking at control and what is it? Control and con.
I would like to assist by looking at the terrain and trying to find appropriate landing spot and communicate that verbally to Took as he makes us. All right, so I think it's maybe insight and con to assist. I'll be assisting with that. Yeah.
You roll first. Is that right?
And I don't know if it matters, but here we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Okay, I got one success, but it only comes in if you succeed on the main task.
Gotcha. And then I do have an applicable focus. I have small craft, and here goes. Ooh. Oh.
Mm.
I warned you. Everybody.
Brace.
Ooh.
The landing did not go all that well, and in fact the shuttlecraft swept over the spaceport and barely grazed the party deck of a cantina, disclosing the arrival of the shuttle to everyone in town. And Took was able to find a landing spot with success at cost, so the threat pool went up just a little bit right there.
Not bad if I do say so myself.
I'll inform the security personnel to watch over our package. We'll try and establish contact for the exchange. Close the door behind us. Mr. Took, Mr. Sakel, with me.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Captain.
I take I suppose we're wearing like appropriate garb. I'm envisioning some sort of headgear with a scarf or something and maybe wrap it around our mouths. And start looking around to see if anyone matches the description of the contact for the exchange.
I will just watch carefully as we walk, as I follow the captain.
At this point, a plague-stricken man accosts the away team, coming out of an alleyway and asking for help and assistance. Took makes a quick medical evaluation.
I would respond as a doctor would. I would probably break out my tricorder and approach him, scanning him and asking him if everything is okay.
Took learns that the man is stricken with something like rickets, and apparently it's widespread here on the planet. And the man's life could be in danger. He uses obtain information spends to get more information about the man's condition.
Okay, I will. Is there any way that I can stabilize him? So I'm thinking insight and medicine. We have 2 momentum, and it's difficulty 2. Is that what you said? I'm sorry. 1. I'm sorry.
Took decides to do some quick first aid on the man here in the street.
Well, I think I would spend a momentum to add a 3rd die, and then of course focus would be. I don't think I have a focus on this. No. Oh, looks like I've got 3.
Yep. There
Captain,
we go.
This man needs fluids. He is sick with fever. It may be parasitic, but I can't do more for him until either I get more equipment down here or we get him aboard the starship. And I can't promise it's not contagious, Captain.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I think I'm afraid this takes precedence, Duke. Do what you can for him, but we need to move. We'll
Agreed, Captain.
notify our organization and try to send help this way as soon as we are able. But first things first.
Understood.
Sakel's gonna pull out his his tricorder just out of instinct, pull out his tricorder and scan for any charged weapons in the immediate area. Control plus security. I don't think I have an applicable focus. And this is a difficulty 2, you said? Gotcha. You guys cool if I use that momentum?
Sure.
Add a third one in there. See how we do. 19 and a 17? Oh my goodness.
Sakal gets some bad rolls on this check, and rather than lingering and trying to figure out an alternate method, Captain Santos decides to push forward confidently toward a cantina which is closed for the evening, which is kind of on the rougher side of town.
Yes.
And so Santos walks in and, tries to reassure everyone and says, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Just keep moving. It appears to be closed, you said? So I'll head up to the door and knock on.
I don't like this.
Yes.
Indeed, Doctor.
I walk in and I say, just here for business transaction. No need for that. So I'll look at the Breen and I'll say, just here to do a pleasant exchange. Do you mind if my friend takes a look, see what condition she is in? It's a little dark in here. Why don't we do this on the street?
And if your prisoner dies, there is no exchange. So I approach. I won't make eye contact with her, and I will begin to make a quick medical evaluation, looking for broken bones, illness. That I would be looking for something that was immediately dangerous to us, and if she is in condition to travel. I don't want her dying on our hands. Now, do you want us to roll for difficulty 0? You don't, right? I'm looking to make sure she is not currently dying. My first question would be, is she stable? Gotcha. Okay, so then I will roll. Okay, against difficulty. Okay, I gotcha. So this would be then control. All right. Tricorder. Let's see here. Medicine, insight, medicine. I do not have a relevant. Looks like 2 successes. Okay. Anything contagious that I would recognize? Does she appear as though she's been beaten or abused? Okay, I will return to the captain. Captain, she is sick, stable, but she's not in a good way, which may be normal, but she has been mishandled, so to speak.
So I'll whisper back. Can she walk? How fast can she move?
I will. If I have to, I will carry her. I won't know until we can walk her. Get her.
When we walked into this place, is this like a 1-story building? Would there be like room on the roof to land the shuttle? Is there any way I can determine that? Let's see. So I'm gonna do insight engineering.
So are we calling the shuttle over? Is that what we're doing, or?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna call inspiration as my focus on this thing, because I got the beginnings of a plan, maybe. So, do you think it applies?
No, I do, especially if you're calling them over to bring the shuttle over to the building. Then it totally.
Yeah, that's my plan. It's a compromise between let's go out on the street and let's do the exchange right here. So let's see how it goes. 1 success. So I'll tell the Breen. So here's my offer. I'll bring the prisoner to the roof and we'll conduct the exchange there. More privacy, don't you agree? So I'll hit the comm badge. Santos to Alcubierre. Meet us on the roof of these coordinates, and I'll give the set of coordinates. Be ready for the exchange.
And I will put her my arm under her and her arm over my shoulder and kind of walk her to the back of the shuttle. Assist her to the back of the shuttle, or carry her if I have to, I suppose.
So I'll say in the comm badge again. They are armed. I suggest you stand ready to return fire if it becomes necessary. Let's hope that it doesn't.
As they arrive on the roof, a photon torpedo bombardment begins, raining glowing orbs from orbit. And this is going to cause a little bit of a flinch reaction and the cause of this is not yet known. It's a threat spend on my part.
Okay, so Kel's natural reaction is going to be to cover the captain and get down.
The Breens seem close to a panic, as much as their alien demeanor and visage can present such an emotion. But needless to say, everyone is ready to get out of here. And the Breen say, let's get this over with.
Agreed. We'll do the exchange. So we start moving back to the shuttle, and I signal the security to start walking the prisoner down the ramp and toward the Breen.
Sakel makes a guard task, straight out of the combat rules, to protect the captain and make sure that everything gets to the shuttlecraft in the same shape that it left on the way towards the shuttlecraft.
So we're saying fitness plus security. Can I use my Culinar talents? So it says to resist pain, coercion, and mental attack, but I kind of also feel like Culinar is very much a sense of calm in extreme danger. Ooh, can I, because I'm covering the captain, can I use my Starfleet protocol focus?
Sakel's guard action goes off without a hitch, which is good that there's a little bit of momentum in the pool, because the photon bombardment comes dangerously close, and Captain Santos is called upon to steel everyone's nerves with a task.
Is this, control and command? Presence and command, even better. What's my difficulty here? Just 2. Okay, so I'm gonna take those 2 momentum, if that's all right, and just throw 4 d20 into the mix. 1 buys me second dice. I could actually add 1 threat to the pool and then just throw 1 momentum, 1, right? Because 2 buys me the second one to the pool, just so Antoine has something to play with. And I am going to invoke my composure focus into this roll. So I'm going to say nice and easy. We do this exchange. We get off planet. We avoid this bombardment. It's going to be fine. And it says 4 successes.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was a 2. The target was a 2, so we're back to 2 momentum. Excellent.
Captain, logic dictates we depart shortly.
Yes. To Rosebud. Sakel, with me. Do some scanning and find out what's out there. What's shooting at us? And I'll initiate the... the engine's running hot, right? Because we just landed, so I'll grab the controls and lift off myself.
And I will secure the prisoner. If there is a restraining harness, like seatbelt type thing, I will put her in that.
I'll go ahead and run a sensor scan on what type of weaponry it is. If we don't have that automatically, I'll run the scan for it. Reason and engineering on this one?
You would also be assisted by the Alcubierre's computers, right? Computers and sensors.
So, yeah. So, with technical expertise, if I'm assisted by sensors or computers, we can reroll one of those d20.
Okay.
To include the ships.
I'm gonna roll for the ship. It should be sensors, right? It shouldn't be computers. Makes sense. It's sensors.
Yeah, sensors makes.
Yeah.
sense.
So here we go. Oh, ship's not helping.
Okay. Wow. All right, Chihuahua. Okay, so I'm going to use my talent to reroll that complication.
Ooh, yowzer.
But we do have 2 successes.
Yes.
Reason plus engineering. So I'm just going to roll 1d20 with the focus. Okay, fine. That's a better 0 than the first 0.
So it turns out, yes, there is a Gaylor-class Cardassian cruiser that's up there and is bombarding the planet, while also laying waste to a starship, apparently, that's in orbit.
Oh. Okay.
Senseless taking of lives.
Okay, we do have 3. Okay, so we will lose 1 with the scene change.
Yes, correct.
I would like to notify sickbay and tell them to prepare for a patient.
Doctor, I don't believe we should hail the Alexandria just this moment, as to not send undue target to where the Alexandria is in orbit.
Mm.
That's a good idea, Sakel. Took belay
Yes.
that.
Okay.
Let's see if we can make it out of system as close to the Alexandria without being noticed. As
Okay.
soon as we're in range, we'll notify the ship.
Perfect.
Hang on tight.
At this point, I'm going to shift the focus away from an actual play here and into a recap. And that's because a lot of the work that you just saw in the previous scene, kind of doing the voiceovers and patching things in, was in fact a great deal of work. And so instead, I'm going to walk you through the remainder of the episode and my recollections of it. So this scene begins with Captain Santos and Sakel riding a turbo lift to the bridge. They're being briefed on the situation by Lieutenant Tenera, an officer of the watch who's been standing watch on the bridge. In this scene, Jason, Took's player, is going to create a supporting character named Jux Thompson. And so he's going to create that character on the fly, and that character is going to become very important to the scene. Because as Santos and Sakel learn as they're on their way, the Cardassians have deployed a net of sensor buoys around the gas giant that the Alexandria is lurking within. So they start things out with an initial scan, checking for any kind of unusual surprises. And from there, they learn that the Breen's surplus Klingon freighter that they came as their ride is being blown to smithereens by the Cardassians, a little bit at a time. And meanwhile, the bombardment of the planet and whatever punitive action the Cardassians are enforcing continues on Neptune. And there doesn't seem to be a way out of these buoys. It comes down to Jux Thompson needing to chart a course. I mean, in fact, the chart course task from the navigator's position. And this is difficulty 3. It's assisted by the ship. And I believe that 1 die was bought, but it does not work out. And this is important because Sakel had in fact created an advantage, and no less, they were not able to find a way out of these buoys. That's very telling because, in this case, failure to the task established a fact, which was that there essentially was no way out unless there was some innovation applied. Now, Captain Santos decides to go for the main chance, and they sprint from the depths of the gas giant. They make their best possible speed. The impulse manifolds are a bit clogged. That's a threat spend on my part. But they manage to get out there into open space, and there's a hanging moment where maybe the Cardassians will attempt to tractor them. But instead, both sides decide to pick up the phone and call each other in a tense standoff. And the Cardassians, all full of brags, this Cardassian gull gives Captain Santos an earful and threatens to contact both Starfleet Command and the Cardassian High Command and let everyone know that there was a Starfleet ship acting shady in a planet that's in the borders between the Tellurian Republic and the Cardassian Union, a place where it shouldn't be. And that should be a little bit embarrassing and maybe not so good for Captain Santos in light of how he will look to his superiors. All told, however, neither side has the inclination or the authorization to escalate further. And so it is after a tense exchange of words, which managed to generate me just as much threat as I spent making the Cardassians appear in the first place, each side goes their separate ways. The Alexandria proceeds at warp back to Starbase, with Rosebud or Davana, the Starfleet asset, now acquired. But there's a little bit of a looming concern. The first of those looming concerns is that there's an unknown power drain on the Alexandria systems. Why is it that things are not up to the standards that this crew is so accustomed to and religiously tries to maintain? Something is playing havoc with the systems, and there's just not as much electroplasma moving through the tubes as there ought to be. The following scene begins with Sakel briefing Captain Santos in his ready room on the particulars of this phenomenon, and it's nowhere near being figured out. Meanwhile, Took walks into the room, and we proceed with a flashback sequence where he performs some diagnosis checks on Davana to unravel what's going on with her. First of all, he discovers that something has been beamed out of critical parts of her brain. Secondly, it's clear that she is coming down with this epidemic of rickets. And especially the issue is that because it's playing havoc with the mitochondrial and the energy production systems in her brain, well, that means that the part of her brain that was beamed out is swiftly being healed around and scarifying. If there's any chance of replacing that brain tissue, then that chance will be lost very soon. And all of this is compounded by the fact that she's been a victim of Cardassian torture, and she's just in terrible physical shape. That said, she's in sort of a catatonic or vegetative state that implies that there's a chance for her. And Sakel finds this especially fascinating because this sort of transporter technology really shouldn't be possible, at least in the current era that we're playing in. It's 2355. It's before the next generation era. This would be some very precise work that was done. And so it is that Sakel and Took proceed to the sickbay to kind of do some further analysis on Divana and try to figure out what's really going on. And it's at this point, just as Sakel walks into sickbay and looms over the bed, she snaps into a sitting position and she attempts to mind meld with him. This is a bad touch in Vulcan terms, at least being uninvited in this fashion and being accosted. And Sakel manages to reach out and apply a nerve pinch, sedating her. Now, before this occurs, it's clear that there's a Vulcan Katra inside of Divana that was controlling her at this moment. And he explains that he's been kind of holding things together and keeping house in spite of the disorder and the Cardassian torture. And he's longing for a more stable place for his soul to exist. He wants to steal Sakel's body, in other words. All told, not all of this is immediately apparent to Took and Sakel. And Sakel is bold enough and trained in the Vulcan techniques to attempt a mind meld. And so they make preparations to find out what's really going on inside of Divana's mind. And they act upon that. And that's where the episode concludes, is looming kind of what's going to happen next and what is the landscape inside of her mind going to be. And so we cut away kind of looking at and prefacing and anticipating this strange kind of dreamscape scene that will be coming in the second half of the episode. This first little blip on the screen was before I learned about OBS Studio. I was still recording with OBS Classic, and everybody knows that that's really silly, and it's almost hard to believe that I could be so ignorant, but there it is. I didn't know. And so we've been doing much better with our recordings. I really don't devote as much time to making sure the stream is perfect as I do to my visual aids in Roll20, which I hope you're all enjoying. I want to give acknowledgement again to Babia. There's all kinds of other amazing Trek artists whose work I've sort of kind of finagled into Roll20, and the credit is all theirs. And it's through all this visual effort that we were able to make kind of a 2-hour session very dense. And we're finding our feet. We're getting a little bit more done in each session. And so I hope to convince you to stick with the campaign and watch a few more of these, learn a little bit more about Star Trek Adventures for now on the Complex Games Apologist.